Now, we would like to welcome you to CSI, backed by popular demand. First thing we need to do is to appoint each of you in this room as a Carolina safety investigator. Your task as an investigator is to determine what happened to Fast Eddie in the incident that happened at Door, Cheatham, and Howell. And the way we're going to go about this is we're first going to present you with a tool that the investigator will be using, and we're going to equip you. In fact, you should have in your hand right now a worksheet that you're going to use as you observe this investigation. So the first thing we're going to do is walk you through the tool that you have in your hand, and then we're going to have some little skits that shows the investigator going around interviewing the people at Door, Cheatham, and Howell. And as he does his investigation, you ought to be very attentive and also note down what you see as the cause to the Fast Eddie incident. Okay? Everyone understand their task as an investigator. All right. Let's get started with the tool first. The tool that we want to talk to you about today is called the Ishikawa or the fishbone diagram. Some of you know it also perhaps as the cause and effect approach, or the cause and effect analysis. Now, this particular approach provides discipline and guidance to the investigation team in looking at a particular incident. And what it does is it helps the team to keep from jumping to solution. Oftentimes, the team will fall into a trap of thinking that they know what the solution is before they've really taken the time to analyze the problem. So this provides you with a disciplined approach in doing that. Because one of the things that we perhaps tend to do at times is to want to work with the symptom, when really what we should be working with, or striving to get to, are the root causes. You want to focus in on the root causes. And therefore, by focusing in on the root causes, you're not dealing with just a symptom or just a portion of the problem. This tool helps you to focus in on the problem and not on the person. Because oftentimes we perhaps get into this thing of placing blame. And so therefore by doing this, it's also helped to reduce frustration. Now, there are basically 5 steps in this process. Again, the most challenging thing in this whole process is to make sure that you're driving to get to the root cause. And in driving to get to the root cause, what you want to be able to do is to look for possible patterns and effects that relate to the incident. Well, you have the added benefit of this particular analysis process in that it is graphic and you can begin to see things. At any rate, the first steps are, number 1, to define the incident. Second, to look at the categories of causes. Brainstorm possible causes, to identify the most probable cause, and then to do the work to verify that that is indeed the cause of the particular incident. Now, as you go through the incident, there are some questions that you should ask yourself in looking at a particular incident, such as, do we know enough about this incident to take corrective measures? Secondly, could there be something else that could be contributing to this incident or causing it to happen? And how often does this incident happen? And when it does occur, how serious is it? And if we were to take these particular corrective measures, what percent of the causes of this particular incident would be eliminated? Let's look at an example. Here, an associate working in second processing received a laceration to his wrist, to his left forearm near the wrist. Now, the associate was wearing an arm guard, and he has been an employee of Carolina Turkey for 5 weeks, and he has received all of the normal training, and there are no disciplinary concerns, nor are there any indication that he was not doing what he was supposed to do, or as he was trained to do the job. So the first step here then is to define the incident. And so in this particular case, after the group had brainstormed for, it basically says laceration to the left forearm near the wrist. That's the incident. Step number 2 would then be to define the major categories. And as you can see, the categories on this sheet are fixtures and equipment, personal behavior or training, physical condition or environment, procedures, management/supervision, and material. Now, these categories will cover perhaps most incident, but there may be occasion where you perhaps would need to change the category, but that's part of what the team will brainstorm and make sure you have the possible category down. Step 3 is to brainstorm possible causes. And so what you would do is actually put causes down up under each category, such as in this case, the first thing was that the mesh glove was not fastened. And then you would need to go ahead and ask questions such as, why was the mesh glove not fastened? And when you do that, it leads to some additional information such as wrong glove size, or the associate simply did not fasten his glove. And you want to ask these questions, and you want to keep asking those questions because you want to drive it down to the root cause. Okay? The next thing is to identify the most probable cause of the incident. Well, the team went out and actually started doing a little bit of research. And when they went out and started doing some research, they learned that the person, what they learned was that the person, in this case, did fasten the glove, but that the person normally wears a small glove, and they had on a medium-sized glove. And they did a little bit more investigation. They found out that someone else had that problem as well, and so they came to the conclusion that the person, or the cause, was the wrong size glove. They took an additional step to go about verifying this by going out and actually interviewing other people and actually interviewing the supply room. And this is what they found. They found out that the associate that wears the mesh glove, they found 5 other people who normally wears small glove with medium gloves on. And they learned that there was a shortage in the supply room on the small gloves. Didn't have any. And so taking all of that into consideration, they determined that the problem was a lack of small gloves in the supply room. So you can see here that then that's what they really needed to look at, was making sure that the supply room was carrying the right kind of material, the right size for their people. True it was, the person wore the glove, but going back to the root cause is what you want to get to. Okay, so that's basically how you use the tool. We just worked on one category, but you really want to work on all of the categories and all of the causes. Okay, now it is your time to actually use this tool. We're going to investigate what happened at Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. We're going to have the investigator to come up, and he's going to be doing various interviews. You have the tool before you. Place your information on your sheet. Now, after each interview session, we're going to compare your sheet to what is on the investigator's sheet. Now, you probably will come up with some stuff that's not on his sheet, but those of you who do come up with information that matches what he has, we're going to give you a prize. Okay, so everyone understand what the task is. Okay, let's get started.